Who created it? Who created their monetary system? And what was the intention, the economists who sat down and developed the currency system that they're using today, what was his intention? What was that devil thinking about? Democracy? Care for everybody? Love? Change? Was he thinking about that? So how can a system that has continued on after his demise with the agenda for which it created, how could it be something different? It could not be. They made guns to shoot people. Try to brush your teeth with one of them. Its agenda hasn't changed. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? They made guns to shoot people. But if you brush your teeth with a gun, you get shot. So if what was money for at its inception? And what is it? How does it reflect its conception of when it was made? African people, Americans, because it was Africans coming over here straight from Africa, right during the time of slavery. Like when we were walking around in chains, there were diplomats from African countries that visited America that were not slaves and walked around just like white people just then and said, "Oh, I'm not a Negro. I'm a diplomat from Nigeria or from Ghana or from wherever." Even during slavery. Now, what was the difference? These different diplomats didn't have no more grasp on American culture or white supremacy than we did. But what separated them from being slaves? Not their education or their learnedness within the white supremacist infrastructure, but their knowledge about who they were. The knowledge of who we are is not in books that are based, not in history books. But what happens is that when you begin to read those books, who you are based upon what has been presented to you. Follow me with this. When you read these history books, who you are based upon who you are in relationship to what has been presented as you begins to create a contrast where who you are can be seen. But it's neither in the historical books nor is it in what the images they have presented. It's not in either of them. But if you read the history books and see what you're not limited to being based upon what they have presented, then you see that there's something more that's actually there. And when you begin to look at the something more that's actually there, then you know exactly who you are. Something not defined, nor not limited, nor something validated or something invalidated by any aspect of their reality. That's heavy. That's heavy. So that means if you never read a book, because some people say, we should get our rights when we get educated, because they saying you really stupid and niggas are ignorant. Behind that, that's what they're really saying. You got to read these books, and this is why you got to study. See, niggas don't study; they don't know themselves. But the same people talking about you don't study and don't know yourself is the same one working for the European establishment. Is the same person in the Europeans' job seeking validation. Is the same person in the European school trying to get a degree, right? And he would tell the person on the street that that's what's wrong with niggas, they don't have knowledge. But should you treat someone humanly just because they have knowledge and treat them wrong because they don't? Y'all hear what I'm saying? His knowledge, his language, his books, his information has nothing to do with natural human rights. Y'all follow me with that? We have accepted that in America, that your knowledge should somehow be your way out of this and that situation. And what we call knowledge is not really even knowledge, it's historical factology. But we say our people don't have a historical fact. The problem is you don't know who Marcus Garvey is. You think somebody should be beat to death because they don't know who Marcus Garvey is? That means that why Marcus Garvey even came, we don't even understand to even say that. This person should be beat because they don't know who Malcolm X is. If niggas knew who Malcolm X and all these people were, then that's their problem. That's not their problem. The problem is the very people who said that don't really know who they are. Because if they knew who they are, they would know that human rights and the right to our humanity has nothing to do with any scholastic process. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Our survival may be based upon the development of our intelligence to strategize around our enemies, but it has nothing to do with any scholastic validation. Y'all see what I'm saying? We make scholastic validation our identity. It's not our identity. Our identity speaks for itself. You see a lion, you know what the fuck you're looking at, no matter how many books he read. And you respect the lion because of what it is. Correct? But when we look at our people, we see that the best of us, the so-called most conscious of us, are concerned about validation. We are looking for a reason to say that we are better and more than a slave. You hear what I'm saying? Because I'm this, that, and the other. I know Malcolm. I know that I'm not a slave. I'm more intelligent than a slave. I'm more knowledgeable than a slave. I'm not a slave. I'm somehow closer to the white man. Watch this. Wasn't nothing wrong with slaves as far as intelligence. As far as knowledge, it wasn't that these people were slaves because they didn't know who Malcolm X was. This is silly. They weren't slaves because they didn't know who Marcus Garvey was. They weren't slaves because they didn't have American factology or American literature or this form of scholarship. That's not why those people were piled in those boats. They may have lacked courage to fight for their freedom, but culturally, they were who they were. Is this right? Even standing in that boat and standing in that Amistad, not speaking a lick of English, not saying nothing slightly Eurocentric, not being able to have the most of a conversation with a white boy, they were who they were. It wasn't because they did not read Macbeth and Moby Dick. Y'all hear what I'm saying? And Shakespeare. That was not why they were slaves. The white man taught them that so that he could what? Imperialize them. Y'all hear what I'm saying? And they believed it, and we believe it today. He taught them the Bible and said, if you learn the Bible, then you'll be free, and you have this information, you'll be literate, and you can have this. It's about literacy. That somehow that white imperialism was a literacy movement in Africa, based upon Darwinism and, the evolution of man, and we got to catch these uncivilized human beings up with the rest of civilized humanity. We have taken this perspective against our own people today as conscious people. The only reason and the only mistake that those people on that boat, if you look at Goodbye Uncle Tom, is they did not have the courage to kill those devils. Y'all hear what I'm saying? That's it. They didn't have the lack of knowledge. They did not have the wrong culture. They should not have had shirts on the boat. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Follow me with this. They should not have had big fancy hats with feathers in it that looks like the British imperialists. They should not have been wearing suits and ties on the boat. They should have had the courage enough to take over the boat and kick the white people off. That's it. That's it. So our people are not walking around and being brutalized because they have the lack of knowledge of who they are. Damn it, they are who they are. We are who we are. When you look at us, the sun knows who we are. The birds know who we are. The animals know who we are. you would have to be ignorant to not know ourselves. And I'm not talking about ignorant and lack of scholarship, but just completely oblivious to reality. You got to read 20 books to know who you are. You're oblivious to reality. The European has to be so scholastic because he is oblivious to reality. So he believes that through his development of his intelligence